Hey guys, it's David. I'm back. Finally back in the studio. And so we're going to stay here for a while. I really don't have any more anything to take me out of to a workshop or a plein air event. And so we're here for a little bit. And so that's going to be fun. We're going to teach you all the things I learned when I was away. So today we have a beer from Cindy. Cindy, who is in my class at Dillman's, gave me a bunch of beer. And so this is from St. Paul, Minnesota. Today's beer is a Summit, the Summit Brewing Company, Great Porter, Great Northern Porter. So let's see what this is like. And let's, if I can't get it open. Now this will be a dark beer. This is a porter. So let's see. Ooh, very dark, very dark. Of course, I didn't pour it right. Probably. Here, where is it? Where's the camera? Where's the camera? So we'll let that set a little bit. And it's in a Guinness glass, so that's kind of good. So we have a nice porter in a Guinness quart, and we're going to let you know how that is in a second when the foam goes down. All right, let's put that aside for a second. Whoa! My chair. I got to buy myself a new chair here in my studio. It's an old chair that squeaks too when I notice it. And oh boy, hey everybody. Hey Barbie. Hey Lynn. Hey Evelyn. Mary, Pamela, Pat, Tina. Thanks for stopping by. And so I'm back, and we're doing a couple pumpkins for the fall. And let me just go really quickly through our normal routine. And thank if anybody's new, please say hello. Say hello on our chat, and I will welcome you. So here we go to my website. My website is beckerart.net or davidrbecker.com. Either one of those will get you here. And actually, since we had the Amazon Prime Day yesterday and the day before, hopefully you went down here, and you can go down here to my shop Amazon, click here. So right there, if you click right there, click Amazon. You know, anytime you go shopping at Amazon, please just click that. It doesn't matter. It'll take you right to Amazon, and you can just shop whatever you want. It'll help me out a little bit here. So thanks a lot. And if you want any of the products that I have mentioned in any of my things, you can just see them right here. And that's the new products, new product page. All right, so the supplies we're using today are, of course, Holbein. And is my sound too loud? Let me know, guys. It seems like my thing seems like it just got back. And my sound bar is going really high, so let me just see if it's a little bit too high. And so there's my products I use. And let me just go right to our value study, because we're going to get going here. And so these last couple of weeks we've been talking about tan and design and grayscale and all that kind of things. And so here I put this together in 3 different steps right here. And so there's the color version, and it's very monochromatic, this image, and we kind of painted that way today in class, at my class again in Libertyville. And then I turned it to a grayscale. I wanted to show you that a grayscale, this is the grayscale. And so when I look at a grayscale, I see this over here. And the tan is what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see where my lights and darks are going to be. So this middle tone of the pumpkin on top here, those are middle tones. And like I said, you can either make them go to the light or the dark. And so what I do is I kind of turn it to black and white. And this is more of a black and white. And so what I am going to do is I look at it and I think, how good of a pattern of light and dark is there? These will still be painted middle tone, but I want to see if the overall light and dark pattern work for you. And that's this no tan right over here, design. And I'll probably not put these as a light down here. I'm just going to keep that dark. I'm going to leave these tan right here, this grayscale. I'm going to push it back to the dark. And the pumpkins over here are going to be bright colored, but they're also going to be part of my light. So I'm going to make them as part of my light. The candles all will be my light. Even though there is some grayscale here, they will be part of my light pattern. This back here, these little, it looks like maybe it was a candle holder. I'm not sure what that was. I put it in and I took it out in my class this afternoon. So I'm going to take it out because that really is a background and I don't think you need to show that. And so I'm going to push that out of here. I'm not going to make that light. It's not going to be part of my light design. It's going to be part of my dark design. And so that'll be part of the dark. It's like a middle tone here, and I'm going to push it. I know it's the same as the candle, but that's where I said you can decide on what your values are going to be. Tina says I sound good on your side. Okay, I was just hoping it's not too loud because I have it. I had it really up high and it went into the yellow. It keeps on going into the yellow, and that's sometimes not good. But if it says it's good, it's good. All right, so there's our there is our pattern of black back here. I'm going to keep this stuff right here. These things. I'm going to push that to the dark, and then this is all going to be my lights, and this is going to be dark. So that's all you have to realize is that that has to be the darks and that has to be the lights. And the pumpkins can be very vibrant in color and in value, but they do have the dark on the bottom here, so I can let them bleed right into the wood of these tabletop here. All right, and so let's go right into our tabletop and get going. Here's what I did this afternoon, and as you can see, like I said, it's very monochromatic. It's very much oranges, reds, browns, yellows, and that's all I went with. I did not go across the color wheel. So I know there's a lot of orange and red, and so I didn't go to the blue or the greens. I just kept it monochromatic. And so tonight, I think I'm going to try to make the background cool and the foreground warm, and just see how that works. I mean, I like this, and you can just go with one side of the palette, just make it monochromatic. Go with maybe this side. So I went with these colors right here on the color wheel of my palette. It's yellow, orange, red, dark red, browns, the purples. And so I used that side. I didn't get into this side of the blues and the greens and the, which you normally is the opposite. And as you can tell, my palette is kind of set up that way as a color wheel. But I will try this time to put more cooler parts right there, okay? Ask questions, anybody new, please. And please let me know if you're new and introduce yourself to the crowd, because all these people know each other. Well, they don't know each other, but we've been on here for now. Boy, it's been since COVID. So 2020, we've started these, and I'm not sure how many we've done already, but this has been fun. And thank you so much for everybody who subscribes. And please have your friends subscribe. It's a free way of getting lessons in watercolor, and I enjoy it so much. And so keep on plugging away. And keep on practicing. All right, so let's get painting here. So this is what I did. Like I said, I'm going to take my darks and I'm going to put them more towards the cooler and the distance. So, and this is kind of nice because it's warm. It's kind of fuzzy, like Thanksgiving kind of dinner type of thing. Warm inside. The fireplace is lit and this candle lit. And so this time, though, what I did is I didn't use masking fluid here today this afternoon. This time I'm putting a little masking fluid to the parts that are white. I don't usually like masking fluid that much, but we're going to try it. Hey, Linda. I'm new. I'm old. Hey, Linda. Linda's old from Tennessee. Well, thanks for stopping in, guys. And we got Darlene from Waterford, Wisconsin. Thank you also for stopping by. And so let's get going with our lights. And now, this afternoon, I was telling everybody in my class that even though I'm doing my lights, and since it was more light to dark, but I was doing all the same colors, I right away got into some of my darks back here right away. Like I put step 1 and step 2 in the Becker Art 3-step process. And again, for anybody who's new, I do all my paintings in 3 steps. And the first step is my lights and my colors. And so I establish my color scheme. And then I go to step 2, which is my large mediums and my large darks. And then my third step is my final details, dark details and light details. And so here, before we get started, we're going to rate this beer here, this St. Paul Summit Porter, Great Porter, Northern Porter, from Cindy, who gave my student. And not bad. It's a dark porter, so it's kind of like a Guinness. Very good, very good. I'm going to give it a 9. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Very good. So let's get going. And that's a 9 paintbrush, by the way, because we rate from 1 to 11 paintbrushes, and that's a 9 paintbrush beer, so it's very good. Tina, thanks for telling everybody to hit the like button. That always helps a lot. New from Ontario. Oh, all right. Ontario, California. Thanks for stopping by. I know I would love to have been there in Laguna. Right now there's a plein air event going on in Laguna, California, and one of these days I hope to get there. It was this week, and I think it's still going on right now in Laguna, California. I think that you said Ontario can't is that it's California, right? Not Canada. Ontario, Canada, or either one. I like both places. I would rather be in both places. All right, so let's get going with our lights. And I am going to probably step in from one to two, step one to step two, because I can get some of the middle tones right away for the background. And so I'm going to go first with my light tones, my yellows. Then I do have some masking fluid down, so I don't have to worry about my light inside the candles. And I'm going to wet the whole thing. I'm going to wet the whole paper, because I like to get soft edges. I'm really into soft edges. And if you read my newsletter this week, I'm talking about not using enough paint. Most students, and I've really kind of studied this in the last couple of months when I've been teaching, is that most students don't have enough pigment in their palette, or they have dried up pigment, or even if they use Holbein, you still need to have a lot of pigment in your palette, because like this is not enough right here, because I actually got to fill this up, but make it full, and it'll stay rejuvenated really easily. It'll get really soft really easily. So here I'm just going to go in here with my lights and a little bit of orange. And you need a lot of pigment. Why? Is so that you can manipulate it into the water. Because I'm working wet in the wet, getting soft edges, and so you need to have the amount of pigment to control it. If you don't have enough pigment, you can't control it. And I even use white sometimes with these colors to then make it more pliable, so it doesn't run too far. I use white sometimes to make it lighter and not so vibrant, but it's just another color that I put within the pigment to make more pigment available so that it doesn't run so far. It's all about this pigment. This pigment is, and I noticed that a lot of students just use way too much water. I put a towel down and I'm rubbing it right here. You can't even see, but I am rubbing it onto the towel and before I put it down. And because that way I know that water is away from my brush and I can use the water that I placed into the scene already. I don't need to have water on my brush, water on the paper. That ends up being too much water. I'm all about pigment, and you have to know how much pigment you're putting down, laying into the water. It will still give you a great, great transparent look, but you need to learn how to get enough pigment in the water and control it. And if you're using not enough pigment, you're always going to make it way too light, because this is going to dry 20% lighter. So use a dark pigment, but if you need it to be thick and light, like the light of the paper, then add a little bit of white to it also. And this is going to be the dark background. I can put a little bit of this in there now, but it will be a dark background. So I don't have to do so much to that where I can wait for that. I can put that in later. I just got back from Springfield, Illinois. I judged a show there. And, it's just, I keep on thinking about how to help and teach, my students more and more, and that one is one of the biggest things I kind of took away from my workshops these last couple of weeks, is that we're just not getting you guys to use enough pigment, enough paint. I know it's expensive paint, but you got to use it. Oh, from Canada? Okay, Sylvia's from Canada, not California. So I hope to get there next summer again to I'm going to try to go to near what's it called, it's right on the St. Lawrence River, up above the St. Lawrence River there in Ontario, and I hope to get there maybe next year again and do something for Holbein, because Holbein in Canada is in, I'll think of the name before I get done here. Not Crawford, that's not Crawford, it's Caulfield, no. Anyways, I'll be in Ontario hopefully next summer. I'm hoping that Holbein does one of their events that they normally had done many years before when with COVID, but they haven't gotten a place to stay. So I'm going to maybe talk to them and say, hey, you don't need to take and make it an hotel. How about just like a nice school basement, or, people that come in that area, usually they can find their own hotels and their own Airbnbs and all that stuff. You don't need to have it in a hotel, because they're getting kind of expensive to run those events in those hotels. So maybe a church basement. So I'm kind of getting the lights done. There's my lights, a little bit of middle tone in there. Let's get some of the pumpkin going. Kingston, oh yeah, Kingston. I'll have to look at the Holbein has a headquartered in Canada, in one of the towns that crosses over in the St. Lawrence. That they have a little they have one of their things there. And since I use a lot of Holbein, they actually got me a thing in Ottawa they were going to last year, but it was too short a notice. So the next year, hopefully, I'll get a couple things in Ottawa. I have relatives up in Canada, and so I go visit them too. They're up in Ottawa, and then also up in Quebec province, up there by Pembroke, Shawville, Otter Lake. And so I go to get up there. That's always fun. So here I'm putting my light oranges for the pumpkins, and yellows and oranges, and like I'm keeping that light yet, but I'm going to try to keep this wet. So I'm taking my spray bottle and just going to spray it up there so it doesn't dry. I'm going to get up there, but I still have to do my lights down here, and I'm talking too much, so let me start paying attention here. So let's get a little bit brighter with the yellows and oranges right here in this pumpkin. This pumpkin is really nice and bright yellow, right? This one right in front. Now these pumpkins also come in white. I know they have a couple of white ones, and that's kind of fun too, to try to keep it a little bit lighter and white. And I'm not getting the shape completely yet because I need to put the darks in there. I'm gonna get those. I could try to get a little bit of that, but I can re-wet, and I just want to put the light color in there first, and then I can come back, re-wet the pumpkin, and then get a little bit more of the darks in there. It's always good to get your lights done first. If I were doing this on my own in my studio where I need to get it done quickly, then I would maybe just put those light darks in there right away. But since I'm teaching students, it's not, you may take a little bit more. It's harder for you to do all this at once, and so I'm giving you a couple little steps to get it done easier. So I'm gonna get my lights down here. Even though this is gonna be really dark down here, I can put a little bit of this down here just to kind of start you off. And this will be the lightest part of the dark, and so I want to get a kind of nice color in there. Nice dark colors in here, just to kind of put it in there. I'll come back with a nice dark, but this is going to be the lightest part of the dark. And also the color of the pine cone. Just wetting as I go along. And see how it's all soft edge? It's all soft, or it's all good. And now up here, if I'm going to make it a little bit darker, I'm going to go to my middle tone, step 2, because this is pretty much all my darks now, or all my lights, I mean. These are all my lights. And I really like using this, Holbein has their lavender, which really works great with orange, and to dull down orange and yellows and reds, actually. It's a nice color to gray things down a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, now this is still wet. I'm going to spray it again real light. One wash across. Whoops, keeps on spraying. So, any questions? Cornwell, yes, that's it. Kathy, yeah, it's Cornwell. That's where I'm going to be going, hopefully. That's where Holbein is, in Cornwell. I always cross the border there to go to Vermont in Cornwell. And this year I went across, I didn't go across there. I went right, because I did that workshop on the St. Lawrence I'm getting old here. In Clayton, New York at the Boat Museum. And so this year, that's where we were teaching this year. So let's get some purple in here. I'm going to get some purples, some darks. And let's go really, really dark. So I'm going to get a little bit brown and purple. And let's get a little bit of blue. Let's go blue because there's a lot of orange in here. But I'm just going to make this cooler and make it dark. And it'll make it so that it'll push back a little bit and give me let's put something underneath here. I noticed that I need to raise this up because my lighting is just for some reason. I don't have my lighting perfect yet. So let's put this over here. Get my palette. All right, so let's go in here and just really get this dark. And so look at how I'm putting up a lot of paint, little purple, blue, black, brown. I'm dipping into a lot of pigment, and I'm putting it down, and it's in a wet surface. I can control it. It's floating. It's fun. It's blue. I can go right along the edge here, and it's going to give me a soft edge, right? Because why is it a soft edge? Because there's water down. And it's so much pigment, it's only bleeding so far because of how much pigment I'm using my brush. And that's why I want you to use a lot of pigment. I want you to get to the point where you can control the edge in a wet wash to where it's like right there. Look at that. That's like a soft edge, but controlled right to that line. And I don't have any paint. I only have paint on my brush. I don't have that much water. I put it on my towel here a little bit. Rub it down. Pick up pure pigment in a wet wash. Practice this. Try this on paper where you wet the paper and then just use pure pigment. And yes, you do have to use a lot of pigment. You have to put a lot of fresh pigment out. But if you don't, you're never going to get this. If you're just tinting everything, you're not going to get those beautiful washes of wet into wet look where it just has all that granulation happening. Look at all that granulation happening in there and all the beautiful colors I'm putting in there. And it's dark, and I'm trying to cover up white paper. So if I need to get it dark, I need to put a lot of pigment to cover up. Just think if you're doing your wall in your house and you have white walls and you're putting a nice color on there. It's going to take a couple coats of paint. So I have to make it, thicker than I think, 20% thicker than I think, because it's covering up white. And so use a lot of paint. And we don't use enough paint because what happens is that we think it looks dark, but it's what pigment we have in there, and it looks dark because it's wet, but once it dries, whatever pigment's left, that's what you're going to get. And look at here, it's running into my, it's almost not enough because look, it's going in there too. But I don't mind those kind of things. Those are kind of nice. That's very watercolor like to get edges like that. That means my brush was a little bit too wet. If I get thicker, it would not be that. So it needs to be nice and thick, your paint. I learned this a lot by using acrylics now lately and using a lot of gouache. Gouache really covers well, and so it's making me use a little bit more of my pigment, and that's what I really realized that most students need to do that too. They need to just use a lot of pigment, a lot more pigment, and to get that, you need to put it on your palette. And that's what the whole newsletter was about this week, only because it really is important. If you want to really learn how to use enough pigment, you got to put it on your palette. And I know it's a little bit more expensive to do this, but in the long run, you're going to have beautiful paintings, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to get those edges. See how thick I've got my paint on my brush? And it's wet. The surface is wet. I put masking fluid right down there, so that's going to be staying. And this seems kind of bright, and so why not when I just go with my big brush, and I'm just going to take pure pigment, rub it on my towel here. Rub it on my towel. You can't see. Up here you can see I just rub it on a towel like this. And then this is still wet, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bit of that in here. A little bit of this orange, make it a little bit darker. This should be a little bit darker so I can just play with it. Pamela asks, is the angle of your painting what's adding to the movement of the paint? Yes, if I angle it up, it comes down a little bit more. And so I like doing that once in a while, just taking and making if it's running, like this is not running that much, but it's running a little bit. So if I angle it downwards, it will angle downwards. It's all about how much water you have in your brush and how much water is on the painting. And I can just move it around. If my brush is the same wetness as the paint on the paper, it's the same thing, right? I noticed the ad just came in, didn't it? Skip ads. Sorry about the ads, but they have to be there so they can pay me a little bit of money. Not very much, by the way. But you can always just wait, and then they'll be over, and you run right through them. And so here, this is going to be a little bit darker too. So I'm just taking this down here a little bit, putting it down here, and it's starting to dry a little bit here. So watch out, because if you go into a damp area, you're going to get watermarks. But if I wet it all real nicely, then it's okay. So I think that's dark enough. And if you wanted to do something more in there, like add a light to the dark, that's fine too. Look at it. I can just put like that, just it's a little bit thicker, you can do that, but it should be floating. Like if I want to put little marks in there, I can put white paint in there or yellow, orange, red, but it has to be wet enough so that it floats. If it's too thick, then it becomes gouache, and then that makes it a whole different kind of painting. And so I don't want to do that quite that thick. And so let's get a little bit more porter. Cheers, guys. Cheers. All right, and so this up here, I'm going to make that a little bit darker too. All right, let's go into our pumpkins now. So that's our dark background. We're going to leave it like that. And I noticed that it's kind of bleeding in here because I have a little bit more water than I thought. That's okay, because you can always, tonight I'm using 300 pound. I've been using a lot of 140 lately, and I've been spraying the back. But this is a 300 pound. And I do want to talk to you about the panels, because I'm going to start talking to you about, I'm going to start using nothing but panels, and it's pretty soon. And I really think that we all should be doing that, and I'll tell you the reasons later, but let's get back into our painting here. And so I'm going to go down here into the pumpkin, just start doing my darks, and looking for my dark in the pumpkins. And it's kind of damp, but it's dry enough where I can go in wet areas now. Wet areas, and if I'm using a lot of pigment, it will just bleed into this area that's wet, that I just wet. So I call this wetting as you go along, wetting the paper as you go along. And that's too red. So let's put a little bit more orange in there. So let's go more towards the yellow orange. Let's go with it that way again. And it is kind of a darker area, especially right here by the stem of the pumpkin. I'll put a nice dark there. I haven't checked my time. Oh boy, we better get going here. And so we're going to do this. We're going to figure out where the lines are of the pumpkin. And you notice it goes kind of here, and then this part right here gets kind of dark. This whole area right here is darker. So let's wet this whole area and then work it. Work it, like if I wet this whole area now again, I can work it so that it's wet into wet, getting my soft edging. And the dark, hard, detailed edges will be for my last step. That's my last step, right? Is always to do that last. So I'll pre-wet this again, re-wet this area. Now it's a little bit damp, but if I just re-wet it all evenly, that's fine, because I'm going to go right around here and go right into my foreground. But so I'm just going to go little by little, get this to where I'm doing the lines, and look at that. It's a really thick amount of paint, and I'm just going to take and darken it down here. I did stop right at this pumpkin because that is a hard line. That's dark now. And so I can just go in here and again work that little area. Thick pigment, lots of pigment to get it darker. Lots of dark pigment if I need to go down here. And then it goes around this stem right here, nice and dark, hard edged. I do have masking fluid there, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Putting a little bit of purple in here. Purple and orange are good. And this down here is nice and dark of the candle. I can just go right in there. That's still wet. So I'm working it while it's wet, but making it thick enough so that it bleeds and stays soft. Soft edges. And it's floating. The paint is still floating. It's doing its own thing and floating and giving me beautiful soft edges. Lost soft edges are so hard to do, but once you get to learn how to do them, they're just really help out your painting so much. And you know, doing hard edges on everything just makes everything, you know, look like it's puzzle pieces. You know, you want to have some soft edges so it kind of bleeds into the distance, or makes it so it's not so noticeable, whatever it is that you're trying to look at. Because you don't have to see everything in the painting to make sure everything's identified like hyperrealism. You don't have to do that to all parts of your painting. So here now, let's get a little bit more, a little bit wetter, and let things float again. They start to get a little dry here, so I'm just going to put a little bit of water and pigment, pure pigment. A little bit of a yellow and orange to make it really nice and brighter. And as I'm going down here, I'm going to go to a really dark. Why? Because that's what it's right here. It's really dark, so I'm going to establish like a really dark right here, just so that it stands out. And we tend to not get dark enough because we're working transparently, and so we're never always getting like a really dark. And so I'm just starting to get to you guys to try to tell you that you do need sometimes to get into there where it's almost black, you know, to make it really contrasty so that the lights can stand out. Because without the lights, without the darks, the lights they can't come out as much. Unless you're doing high key painting, that's a whole different story, but we're not going to get into that right now. High key paintings are a little bit tougher to do because of the fact that you're only going to like a number 7 black, maybe 7 dark, I mean, and so it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder to do. All right, so there's that pumpkin, and here we get some soft edges. This again, let's make this a little bit softer. Let's get some yellow in there. There's gonna be some darks in there yet. I'm gonna keep that a soft edge. And so again, I'm still working my soft edges. I'm still working, even though I'm on my second stage, which is my large darks and mediums. That's the stage I'm at right now. So I'm still doing that with the soft edges. And then this is still soft. Practice this. This is really good practice to do, to try to do soft edges throughout your painting. This is a really good example of that too. So now I'm going to wet the whole foreground. This is going to be the tabletop, and so I wanted to make it look kind of, you know, like there's grain going on there, so I can not make it so wet so I can get some graininess to it. I do want to make it pretty dark. It's going to start out dark, and the thicker I get, the more graininess I can get of my brush. I can keep it a little bit drier, get some of this grain. See, I'm just getting a little bit of grain in there of the wood, like it's on a wood plank, wood tabletop. And this is pretty dry. This is all dry right now, and so I'm going here with a pretty dry brush, and I'm starting out with dry, and we'll get wetter as we move on here. But then quickly do some quick brush strokes. I will do this pumpkin in a second, but I'm still getting this one, getting the darks down here. Now that it's kind of wet and a little bit of warmth here, like I'm going to keep this warm. Maybe a little bit of purple in there to make some dark shadowing on this pumpkin. And I will wet this pumpkin in a second because I do want it pretty dark, also bleeding into this tabletop. And I can get the really fine details of the wood. I can get that later too. So let's just worry about the big stuff first. Hey, Judy from the Villages. Hey, Carol from Chicago. I see you. I see Carol was in, I think, France. I think she had fun in Paris. I think I saw you in Paris, so that must have been fun. I have to see her pictures when you get back. All right, so now let's wet this pumpkin. Let's wet it with my brush. I'm just going to wet it, and well, let's wet it as I go along, because I do need to wet this down here. And then the top part, I can keep it nice and orange. And so there's the stem is throwing a shadow here. Make it nice and thick. It's going over this way, going to get soft. Then there's a couple of these, you know, the parts of the pumpkin that have lines coming in here. It gets dark on the bottom here, so there I'm just going to get some really dark so you don't see where the bottom stops. And see down here, I can just bleed that into the pumpkin and bring this up. This part has to be done wet in the wet, so you can make this so that it's not a hard edge. You can get the hard edges later. Once it's dry, you can get all the hard edges you want. And now I'm softening this edge so that we can just go in here and keep things soft. Make the lines. Hey, Ann from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Boy, we're getting everybody from everywhere. I just signed up yesterday for the PACE Expo, PACE being the Plein Air Painters Expo, in the Smoky Mountains next March. I think, next March. That should be fun. And they're going to be near Asheville. They're going to be painting at the Biltmore near Asheville, and they're a little bit farther west of there. They're staying at that casino, some big casino hotel. But I signed up already to get my hotel. I'll be with Legion Papers. And so look at this nice little light in there. So I do have to get that masking fluid off of there so pretty soon, so I can go in here and get some nice soft edges. Put a little bit more color in here. Nice beautiful pumpkin color. Orange. Get these lines. See how soft that is? And see how I didn't have a line here? I'm not getting a super hard edge line. That way the whole painting kind of falls together as very moody, I guess you could say. And then we can get hard edges later. We can establish things that are detailed later. I just need to get things working all together as one. Here we have the pine cone. Let's get that going real quick. The pine cone usually has an edge that's light, so you're basically just doing the darks and leaving the light of the edge of the pine cone. And I'll use like a terracotta color for this pine cone over here, and really all you see is the sides that are light, the part that comes forward. So there's a bunch of light little edges that are basically lines that are light. So you're kind of negative painting the light parts of the pine cone. And of course I just use one dark, but that doesn't mean I don't stop there. I put other colors in there. Once it's wet, then I'll go back in, throw some orange in there, some reds. And then parts I may want to have more soft, so I don't want to see every single hard edge of this pine cone. So I'll just throw a bunch of little colors in there and water and let things float together. Now this candle also should be dark right there. I'm going to wait a little bit because it's, well, let's go. Let's just wet it. Let's just wet it here. And just bring some of the darks right in there. You can always re-wet any area. Just let the pigment float in that area. And I am going to put a little bit of this blue that I have because we're using a lot of orange, and so I'm going to put a little bit of blue to gray it down this candle right on this side, so your eye doesn't go so much over there. And same thing with this candle, I'll be getting a little bit of the blue in there too. Put a little bit of ultramarine blue into the orange and dulling it down so that not everything is super bright. And that makes my bright orange pumpkins even more vibrant if I put a little bit of not so bright a color in this area. And I like to blend it right into the bottom so that this also, you can't really see the edge of the bottom of the candle. It's just blurry, and blurry means soft edges, and that means wet into wet. It's very simple if you learn how to work wet into wet. That's one of the projects I want you to start thinking about. How can I make my edges wet into wet? How can I work soft edges wet into wet? And one of the most important things, of course, is first you're going to need a lot of pigment. You're going to have to put more pigment in your palette. And so here I'm going to put the same thing as the pine cone on that side. And it's hard to see that there's actually a pine cone on this side of the picture. I couldn't tell if it was a pine cone or not, but I thought, I'm just going to put it in there. If you don't want to put a pine cone in there, that's fine. I did take that little thing out over here, again, because I didn't think it needed that much. That was like too much in there. Now I'm going to take this out of here and just dry it a little bit because I gotta get my masking fluid off of here. And let's see if I have an eraser or a rubber cement pickup right here. I'm just back in my studio, so I have to clean this studio up again before I get started. I don't see it right now, so I'm going to use my rubber gloves and hopefully that'll pick it up. Because this is almost like I have a rubber glove on, and it kind of helps pick up the things too, because rubber against rubber just kind of stick, and so I can just use a rubber glove and it just kind of comes right off. See that? Look at that, right off. If it's not wet, so I'm rubbing my fingers off, and I just put masking fluid here because I needed to just get this. I want to keep the light of the paper, the white of the paper, I mean. Here's a little candlelight, and actually that was wet, and so that didn't help it at all. Soft and cozy look is what I'm going for. I want soft and cozy and kind of blurry. You know, it's just like I'm trying to get feeling of a kind of look. And to get really hard edges, you know, that would not show cozy, right? Cozy is not really abrupt hard edges. Cozy is like soft edges, blurry, out of focus. Oh, I just put my thing into the dark. Ah. So how do you take care of that? You just take clean water and then just go in here and oh boy, I just smeared my hand into that area, and so, but you can just quickly go over that and just get rid of that dark, or that dark that we just put in there. That's how come you really should wait whenever you're working with masking fluid. Wait until it dries. I can't wait for it to dry sometimes because I am teaching in 1 hour, and so we just have to get it off of there. And I don't like using a hair dryer, because then it kind of forces it to the paper in a way. Dry the top of there. Oops. Really quickly here. Let's see if we can get this off without making it all dirty. Actually, the rubber gloves work really well. And then I just pull, because this is held by masking fluid, and it really comes off in one piece, which I really like. Nice and careful. I also can heat the masking fluid to make it come off easier too. And it's not pulling any paper off today, which is I'm really surprised, which is really nice. Here I get into this got a little dirty right here, but there we go. Oh, and one more right here, and then we got all the masking fluid off. I'm not a big fond user of masking fluid, but once in a while it's a good thing to use to get your lights to stay. And now I'm on detail stage, so let's get into our details, because we got all our big darks or big mediums, and now we're in detail stage, right? We better hurry up because we only, well, we got plenty of time. You see, did I miss anything? Yes, I was. And highlight was Giverny. I had tons of photos to paint. All right, Carol, you're going to have tons of photos to paint in class. That's one place I've never been yet, the Giverny. I'll have to see that. Monet's Gardens. All right, so here's a little bit of see, it's detail now, and so I'm going to my dark details, and it's just what it says. They're dark details, and basically the ropes, anything that's detailed. And that's the last step. It's like anything that looks detailed. You need to get these ropes in there, a little bit of a string here. And even when it comes to these pine cones, I can get more detail into them too. And here we get a little bit. And that's not only dark details, but also light details, which I kind of did when I took off the masking fluid. And like this, look at this stem right here. The pumpkin is really dark right here. So look at how I almost used like really dark purple, dark blue together with some red, browns. Super, super dark. Super, super hard edged. Because now it's time to get the hard edges. It's good to get hard edges at this point, because now things will pop out. See how this looks like this is out of focus? And now this becomes in focus because it's a hard edge. And that's one thing we need to use more. And I noticed that that's where, if everything is hard edged, then you don't have that softness of smooth edges and looks out of focus. And this will give you that now. Being able to do that, working your wet edges, gives you that beautiful look of hard edges and soft edges. They work so well together. Lost and found edges, they call it. I'll put a little bit of blue and purple in here too. It's always good to just get a little bit of color, a little bit of cool color in there too. Because since I had some blue in the back, it'll be into this time. Now I did the other one I did was more monochromatic, and so I didn't have as many colors. I mostly had just yellows and browns and reds and oranges. This one I had a little bit of blue in the back, so now you got to put that in there somewhere else, not just in the background, elsewhere too, like I did here. And don't be afraid of darkening your colors with black instead of trying to mix your blacks, because most people, again, if you don't use enough pigment, that's how come they can't make a black, because they don't use enough pigment. And so it forces you this way. You're forced to start using more paint, and then just use black. Just use black and add color to it. It's just as good. Here, I'll now go in here, get this little bit of detail. This whole part in here is darker now that the masking fluid's off. I'm going to pre-wet that area. Take my round brush. Hey, Maria. Maria's going to hopefully help me with my new book that's coming out for teaching people how to draw from their imagination. And so I thank Maria for helping me. And I just contacted Legion Papers just recently, today actually, and I asked them to see, because when my book comes out, I'm going to have also, it's going to come with a sketchbook, like a sketchbook with a workbook, both together, and they're going to be put together as one. And then we're going to teach you how to work from your imagination and work in how to draw from your mind's eye. And I may even do like a 2-month course where you're going to be working with me every day for 2 months, 66 days. And that'll be next year. We're going to see if we can't teach everybody how to do some great, great drawing. All right, and so let's see what else we got to do here. Getting close. Now this has got a little bit of, I lost the light here, so that's going to have to go in with paint. I'm going to rub out. Here, these turned out pretty nice though. These are very, very light candles, and maybe they're even not, because usually a candle, this must be like fake candles, because having that little bit, I'll have to see if that's fine. I think that we're going to keep it like that. Again, more details here. Bottom of the pumpkin. And now we can go in here and get some more lines for the details. This pumpkin right there is a little bit too white where it's at, so I'm just gonna, I do like this light that I got from the white of the masking fluid. It kind of really just pokes the light right on that side, which I missed on my first one this afternoon. I kind of lost those lights. See, I kind of lost the lights in this area. So that's kind of nice that I got them back. And that's what I thought. I needed to have that light coming from the side and just really hitting the side of the paper. And what else do I got to do here? Let me think. Let me look. So let's go in here. There's small details. Let's get these. Small lighting effect. Lights, camera, action. You need to make the lighting look good with the colors. Hopefully, Darlene asked, will the book help even if you can't draw? Well, that's going to teach you how to draw, basically what it's doing. It's going to start you with small, very easy assignments, and they get harder as you go on. But it's hopefully teaching you how to draw from your imagination, and actually just drawing in general. It is good to have a sketchbook with you at all times anyways, and just start drawing and sketching things in your sketchbook before you even get going with a book like mine. It'd be good to, if you just have have a sketchbook with you and start drawing things. And when you're looking at something and drawing something, don't draw it and look back and forth. Basically study the object, and then when you have it ready to go, then try to do it from your imagination. Like, study it and memorize the look, the shape. That's what I'm going to teach you how to do, is memorize the shape of things. And then you can just draw it from your imagination. That's the way I learned. I will have an explanation in the book how I learned how to draw from my mind's eye. And now I can pretty much draw anything that I've seen it. I mean, that was my job for 35 years as a storyboard illustrator. But now, if I've seen it, I can draw it. I can just draw it because I see it visually in my head. I can basically picture it in my head three-dimensionally. All right, I'm just slowing down here. How much time do we have? We still have plenty of time. All right, let me look. What else can I do here? Let's do our, let's get our board down here. I actually like this look on here. I'm going to show you how to rub out. This may be a good place to put a stencil too, to like just put a stencil in there. But if I do that, I can't do it here. I didn't anticipate for doing a stencil, so I don't have them with me. You can put the circle of confusion in there like I did for the one things. That's kind of fun too. Circle of confusion, just circles. Now I'm taking my rigger brush and making grain of the wood down here. And as you can see, I'm just taking and doing one after another, making the grain go all the way down. And that just makes it look like grain. And it's pretty dark. I'm using black and the purple. Maybe a little bit of red, this terracotta red, which is light red in this Holbein. Now, I know I keep on talking about Holbein only because, I do love to represent them. But it's one of those watercolors, and it doesn't have ox skulls, so you can put the whole tube in. You don't have to save it and just put it in little by little. It's one paint you can put in and just squeeze the whole tube into your palette, and it's not going to be wasted. It doesn't have ox skulls, so a little bit of water will rejuvenate it instantly. Here, I'll put a little knot right here, a little knot, look at that. And then this pine cone here needs a little bit more darks inside the version here. And so it's inside the look, and it basically, the outside is where the little light, the little it's almost like a Christmas tree with the lights on the outside, on the top. And so way down deep in there, there's always really darks. It goes way into the pine cone. And anytime you're doing an object and you're not quite sure how to do it, draw it up on a scrap sheet of paper and paint it there first. You don't have to do it right on your painting if you don't know how to do it. Try it on a sketch paper. I was telling Legion that I want to maybe do a sketchbook that has one sheet of sketch paper, one sheet of watercolor paper, one sheet of sketch paper, one sheet of watercolor paper. And so they think they can do that, and so hopefully, I know that there are a couple of sketchbooks out there like that where they have watercolor paper, sketch paper, watercolor paper, sketch paper. So I'm going to see. And hopefully Maria will teach me how to urban sketch, because she's a professional urban sketcher, and so I'm going to have to see how to urban sketch. I've always wanted to learn how to urban sketch. So we're going to barter. Hopefully we can barter lessons. And there we have some more lines for the grain. And it seems like this could have a little bit dark back there to punch it a little bit. Let's see what happens if I punch it. I'll turn upside down for a second. Just turn upside down for a second so I can just put a little bit of dark right there. I'm going to see if this will punch it up a little bit right here. It's my center of interest, so just punch this a little bit. And then let it bleed. So how do I make that soft edge? I just add water right up here. Just add water to it. Let it bleed into the background with water. See? Doesn't affect it at all if you just let it bleed up there. And then it gives it a little bit more lighting to hit that part of the painting. Maybe go up farther. Today was a busy day. We had Dan Danielson did a for our club, the Lakes Region Watercolor Guild. They did a demonstration, which was a really nice demonstration too. And that was in Grays Lake. So if you're ever around the second Thursday around my area here, the Lakes Region Watercolor Guild has some great artists come and do demonstrations for us. So he did one this morning at the Grays Lake Bank there. All right, I think this is about it, guys. And we have 5 minutes left, but I think I am not going to try to wreck it. Unless you guys see something. Did I miss something? Tina, did I miss something? Well, I've promised this book to, this has been about 5 years now. I've been promising this book. It's already written. I just have to get, I have to take photographs, and hopefully the photographs will be done pretty soon. And it's changed a little bit through the 5 years I've been started it. I think it's 5 or 6 years I've started this book. but it's hopefully done pretty soon. All right, let's take the tape off, and I think we're done, guys. All right, let's take this off. Thanks, Barbie. Glad you like it. I think Barbie likes Halloween a lot. I've seen your Facebook page. I think she's find some really great shots of Halloween pictures. So here's this one this evening, and let's see the one this afternoon. I think I like a little bit of the blue in there. This is more monochromatic. And I did it to the edge. I've been trying to work to the edges, only because I like to. One of these days, we're just going to work on panels. Oh, the third candle. We have to light that, don't we? Yeah. How am I going to do that? White paint, maybe? Let's light the white candles, and we still got time. And so, what I like to do for that is I like to take paper towel. Which I don't have any around, so I use my towel. So what I'm going to do in here is just rub it. Blot it, rub it and blot it, and then maybe put some white paint in there. And so there we have the light of the other candle. It's not too pointy. But then parts of that will be in the frame anyways, or the mat. So put a little bit of this on the side here. A little white paint. A little white paint there. And there you go. And let's put a little white paint here too. I know this is cheating, but that's okay. All right, guys. Oh, I wanted to show you how to scrub out. One second. We still got 5 minutes, right? Yeah, we still got 4 minutes. So here are these scrubber brushes. These are brushes that are kind of just chopped up. You can take old brushes and just cut them, like old oil painting brushes or brushes that are kind of short, and they work great for scrubbing out. And like right here, I like to take a little bit of this and just rub some of this dark out that it kind of ran in. And so you can just real lightly brush. And actually, you can also do it just with a regular brush too. Take clean water and then just rub across it. I say tickling it. Tickle your painting. And then just blot it. Blot it with paper towel, but since I don't have paper towel, I'm going to blot it with my towel. And that way you can get your edges back and make them a little bit more clean. You can clean up your edges. All right, I think that's it, guys. So here again, there's this afternoon's, all monochromatic. Let me get this thing out of here. I didn't know it was there. So this is monochromatic, and this is more blues and orange, blue and orange colors. And there you have it. Any questions, you can put them still into the comment section of the description of the video. Please like it, and please have your friends subscribe and tell them about that. We do some free. And look at the lighting on this one's a little bit better too. Isn't it amazing? The second time it always works out better, because the lighting I didn't have as much right here. The lighting, it's more lights and darks, but here I got a little bit of the lighting happening, which just was actually by an accident. So, but it worked out. So until next Thursday, which I'm finally back, and so we're gonna see. And if you ever have any ideas of what you want to learn and images that you want to kind of learn about, and I haven't done that yet, please let me know. And come and put them in my Facebook page or my Facebook group page, or just go to my website and ask me there, because there's a place you can contact me. And so until then, till next